This right here is a story about justice whenever your elected officials and people who are supposed to serve your community refuse to give you justice. This 15-year-old girl, a Swedish girl, is assaulted and raped by a cab driver in Sweden. This cab driver is not Swedish, he's not even European. Whenever she goes to accuse him to the police kind of brush it underneath the rug, saying either you asked for it or we're just not going to talk about it because it's going to spread more racism and Islamophobia. When the four brothers, all under 18 at the time, 18 or younger, get wind of this, they decide to take action into their own hands. They pose as a girl and text this guy and say, hey, I want to meet up with you, this time under more, reasonable accounts. They lured him into the woods. This man's 26, by the way, meeting up with the 15-year-old girl, he thinks. They beat him and hang him. Now, it reminds me, let me move my book here, my milk. It reminds me of a good old story, Genesis chapter 34, 35, where Jacob's daughter, Israel, is raped by a man named Shechem. Now, Shechem and his dad goes to Jacob and say, hey, I had such a good time with your daughter, I want to marry her. Jacob's like, dude, you fucking raped my daughter. The brothers, when they find out, they're like, oh, hell. So the brothers, this is the brothers' plan. They deceitfully tell this guy, you can marry our sister, but you have to be circumcised. And every man in your village and town, city, has to be circumcised because, as you say, you want your daughters marrying our sons and our sons marrying your daughters to make one human race thing. You got to be circumcised. So what happens is, on the third day of recovery, Levi, the priest caste, which would be the priest caste of Israel, and Simeon go in there and they kill every man just because Shechem raped their sister. So then you'll ask, hey, well, what is the punishment for these vigilantes? Wasn't God displeased that they went out and murdered people? Well, in the book here, it doesn't say that. In fact, the only person that's displeased, in a sense, is Jacob, because Jacob's worried that the other nations are going to come and fight against him and his sons and kill them all. This for doing away with the promise of Abraham. However, God says, I got your back, and no one's going to hurt you. No one hurt them. The brothers of Sweden aren't so fortunate because they got anywhere from life in prison to a few years in prison, as teenagers, by the way. And they said, hey, we're inferring that you did this on purpose. We're going to assume that you tried to make this murder look like a suicide, so therefore, even the sister that got raped is going to get some time for this. Which one's more just?